Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to my channel. This is part 4 of my WCOOP 530 final table review, and I've saved the best for last because we're going to be looking today at some outrageous ICM sims. Let's get into it. All right, so here is the spot then. The cutoff has 25 bigs and pocket jacks. You can see the chip leader has almost 72 bigs, and the two blinds now are very, very short, having about 6 big blinds each. So the pressure on the cutoff now from the button is going to be really, really high. And I thought this spot was fascinating because Jacks actually goes ahead and min raises here. The 8-5 suited goes for a 3-bet, and then Jacks decides to 4-bet. But I was thinking, if you open pocket jacks and you get jammed on, can you call? And if you can't, then does like jacks and tens become the bottom of our range and just, we raise fold against the button, but then we raise call against the blinds, obviously? Or does something else crazy happen? Now, I mentioned right at the start, these are some outrageous sims today. I think you're going to love it. So just to show you what happens, jacks goes for the min raise. I mentioned this earlier on. 8-5 suited goes for a 3-bet, and then jacks goes for a 4-bet, and obviously 8-5 suited is just going to fold here. But a pretty tough spot. If you're in this situation with a slightly weaker hand, maybe you're thinking, do you know what? I'm not sure we get to 4-bet jam here. I'm in a bit of a tricky situation. All right, so here is the sim. Now this is the button strategy because I didn't want to spoil it, but let's take a look now at what the cutoff does. And this is their strategy. And you can see they fold a whopping 87.5% of the time. They're going to raise to 2 bigs with 3% of hands, and actually jam 25 bigs with 9.3% of hands. And if we take a look at pocket jacks, it's going to make slightly more money jamming than it is min raising. Now, if we take a look at the risk premiums, this is an absolutely ginormous risk premium, 26.7%. So the cutoff, if they did get jammed on, would probably have to fold a huge amount. So we min raise, let's have the button jam, and then the cutoff can only call with pocket aces. They can't even call with pocket kings. So the risk premium here is having a massive effect on the overall strategy. If the cutoff decides to open too many hands, if they get 3-bet or they get jammed on, then they're going to have to fold a huge amount. And that's why the min raising range here is so small. It includes aces because you can get it in with aces, but then it's going to include some other hands that have to raise fold. If you do get 3-bet by the button, let's have a look at what we do then. We don't do any calling, but we do then go for a 4-bet jam with some more hands. And when we 4-bet jam, the button can only call off with jacks plus and ace queen plus. Let's take a look at the button strategy as well versus the open. You can see, once again, this is very similar to part 1 of this series, where there's a lot of ace-x hands going for a jam, and that's simply because the button should only be raise calling with aces in this spot against a 3-bet jam, but also getting to jam a lot of other hands as well, and going for some 3-bets too with the top of the range, which wants to 3-bet call. We already saw that jacks plus ace queen plus can 3-bet call in the button shoes, but then we're going to fold these other hands as well. So a lot of flatting as well, calling 20% of hands. This is something that the button can do because they're in position and they know that they can apply a lot of pressure post-flop as well. But this is something that's not to be overlooked because, yes, we can play very aggressively in the button shoes. We can 3-bet or we can 3-bet jam. But we can also flat a lot of hands in position and make life really, really hard for the cutoff in this hugely high ICM pressure situation. So going back to the cutoff strategy then, you can see hands as strong as kings want to jam here. We already saw that if we min raise kings and we got jammed on by the button, we would have to fold. Now, I'm not sure that many people are doing that. I think most players are just going to probably open a wider range than this. They're going to get jammed on and they're going to be really happy calling it off with ace, king, kings, queens, aces, obviously, but probably jacks and tens as well. And this is going to be a huge mistake. So we can see, I'll just go back through this node, that these hands are just not going to be great. They're going to all be losing money on a call. So we don't want to be doing that. And I think I wasn't overselling it that these are some outrageous sims because look at the strategy. I'm not sure if you haven't run these sims before that you will have seen anything similar to this. yeah, if you're running sims regularly, no doubt you would have seen some ICM sims like this where the risk premiums are so high that you just can't open many hands. When you do, you have to recognize we can only raise call aces, so we probably can't, open too many hands in the first place, and then we end up having to jam some hands as well. When we do go for a jam, you can see that the button can only call really tens plus ace queen, so it's folding a whopping 95% of the time. Let's take a look at their risk premium against you. So the button versus cutoff, it's only 2.1%, but the range of hands that you're jamming is just so strong that they can only call off with nines plus ace queen plus. When you do jam, interestingly, small blind can only call off with jacks plus ace queen suited plus ace king off, and the big blind can only call with tens plus ace queen plus. And this is something we looked at before, how the risk premiums are still really high for the two short stacks. Neither of them wants to bust before the other, so their risk premiums against the two bigger stacks is going to be really, really high. Against each other, you can see they're actually quite small. So against this kind of jamming range, the two blinds can only call with really, really strong hands, really strong range. And I think this might come as a surprise to some of you, especially if you're in this situation with 5 or 6 big blinds in the big blind and you look down at nines or eights or ace jack suited and you're supposed to fold. So that's going to do it for this video and for this series. This final video was probably my favorite to look at. The sim I thought was absolutely brilliant, that we have to adjust our strategy massively because we're at risk of being completely owned by the player who's in position and has a massive chip lead, especially when there are two players on very, very short stacks. Hopefully in this series you've seen how important it is to understand risk premium, and every single hand in this video series has really sort of dived into what happens four-handed when there's this crazy ICM pressure of the player in second against the player in first. If you haven't done so already, hit that subscribe button and I'll be back soon with a brand new video. But until then, take care and I'll see you soon.